my name is Raisa Nazaire, and I am a mental health advocate and author. And I've been doing this series of mental balance is a juggling act for the past few months. And so, if you have an opportunity, you can go back in the archives and check out later editions or earlier editions of these sessions where we're talking about how to build mental balance in oneself. And the discussion in general is based on my last book called Mental Balance is a Juggling Act: How to Start a Mental Revolution for a Change in Thought, with the goal of building up an army of mental revolutionaries. So, an army for well being and peace instead of destruction and chaos. So today we are up to day 28 of the 40 days of concepts in mental balance is a juggling in the book Balance is a Juggling Act, and it is called Go with the Rhythm of Your Personal Energy. And if you don't acknowledge the energy, your ebb and flow, that means that you're automatically depleting your personal energy. And so we want to work with our natural biological rhythms, not against them. And focusing on mental fitness by aligning with those natural rhythms actually empowers us so that we know ourselves in a really more meaningful ways. We really get to be in tune with ourselves, and it relieves the pressure of having to be in that do mode of high beta and having to be at peak performance all of the time, because we can freely give ourselves permission to align with the different energies of ebb and flow that we go through. So we know that we're in the flow, so that's when we work harder. If we're in an ebb, then we take it down a notch accordingly. And the result of that is less stress. You don't get burned out, you're less anxious. Um, and then when we do have low moods, they're shorter because we acknowledge that there's an ebb and flow, and that energy will move through from the low to a high. And we'll also procrastinate less because um, we know that the next stage is going to come. And just an aside on procrastination, um, a lot of people see procrastination as laziness, but it's not laziness at all. It's actually a flight mechanism, a fight or flight, um, where we kick our sympathetic nervous system into gear so that we have more energy. It's not caused by poor management. It is just a defense mechanism. And a good way to deal with and overcome procrastination is by changing how we actually look at the thing that we're procrastinating around. And often we're seeing it as something that is going to be painful or fearful. If we can shift that perception to something that's going to be more pleasurable about doing the task, we have to create that for ourselves. What is pleasurable about doing this? It could just be the outcome, and that way we get around procrastination. Okay, but yeah, that was just a squirrel moment on procrastination. For ebb and flow, though, when we are in the current moment, which is flowing energy, right? Think of current, and it's like a river flowing or electricity. The word current means belonging to the present time and passing from one to another, like moment to moment, or circulating, meaning that up and down, ebb and flow, right? So we're moving forward to a higher emotional vibration when we are in the flow, or allowing that energy to move through. And then it doesn't matter if it's an ebb, which is a low phase of energy, or the flow, which is a higher phase of energy. It's still in motion when we're in the present moment. It's when we're stuck in the past or creating a future that's based on the past because we skip the gift of the present moment or the current moment, right? It's because we perceive that we are stuck in, and we've actually slowed down our energy. And biologically, we're sending the message that says, stop, we're not ready. So the energy becomes stuck. So, yeah, it makes sense that when you get stuck in a dense emotion, it's easier to spiral down to a lower frequency emotion. And one of the major tools that we have to regulate our feelings and emotions is to align with our biological rhythm, which is what we're going to talk about today. We have biological ebbs and flows, and those come out of growth and evolution as an aid, and that impacts our mental balance or imbalance that can lead to things like depression, um, disease of the body, or things that are called disorder, such as bipolar. Biological rhythms also influence our immune system, our DNA repair process, our sleep, metabolism, our heart rate, our blood pressure, our body temperature, our hormones, and even how we when we produce urine. And so there are three major biological rhythms. And I'm going to start with the shortest and then move to the longest. The first is ultradian rhythms. And these are cycles that last shorter than a day, but they're longer than an hour. And the ultradian rhythm consists of a peak energy. So it's 90 minutes of high frequency brain activity. And then you have a low or a trial. And the low frequency lasts about 20 minutes, and this cycle repeats throughout the day. And then we have those same cycles that get mirrored during our sleep and mirrored in other bodily activities like heart rate, digestion, etc. And the second is circadian rhythm, which is the one that I'm sure most people have heard about. Um, for some reason, you don't hear much about ultradian rhythms or infradian rhythms. Circadian rhythm is repeated every 24 hours. Circa means about, dia is day, so about a day. And circadian rhythms include sleep, waking, cycle, body temperatures, appetite, stress levels, etc., etc. Then the third is infradian rhythms. And these are cycles that get repeated either every few days, weeks, months, or even annually. And infradian rhythms include female menstrual cycle, um, seasonal affective disorder, or just a couple of the ones that are more known, and it also impacts our hormonal cycles. So the overall goal to be aligned with our ebb and flow and go with the rhythm of our personal energy is to learn how to identify these, or at least know about them, and pay attention to what time of day you actually feel energized or when you feel like you need a rest. And that way, we can work during our peak and then take breaks during our valleys. And we'll be aligned with the way that it was planned for us to work. And so I'm going to go deeper into each one of the three. And if you'd like to make a comment, if you have any techniques that you use to help facilitate your personal ebb and flow, feel free to share and come up on the stage and share. So we talked about ultradian as the first and the shortest. And again, it consists of a peak at 90 minutes of high frequency brain activity. And then you have the low, which lasts about 20 minutes. And our body is actually craving a rest every 80 to 90 minutes. And we know that clearly the typical workday was not designed for productivity. What it actually is asking us to wake up in the morning, go, 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 and then to sleep at night. But that's not actually how the body works. Our body actually works in these ultradian cycles of 90 and 20 minutes. And so the 90-minute is a flow period. And in the first 30 minutes or so, we are in arousal mode. At 45 minutes approximately, we're at our top for performance. And then at maybe 50, 60 minutes in, we begin to start to feel stress. And so at that point where we're starting to feel stress, we are losing some productivity and need to go into that 20-minute period of rest. So during the flow period, hormone levels increase, the heart rates increase, the brain activity goes up. These are all the signs that you get when you're in high beta mode, a brain wave in high beta, when you're focused on an activity, on accomplishing something. And so all of that increases during the first part of the ultradian cycle. You also, as a consequence, more alert, and you've got more mental focus that allows you to get what you need to get done and to be creative. And so, as mentioned, after about an hour or so, it starts to decline. And at the 80, 90-minute mark or so, the brain and body want to go into rest. So, in this rest period, if you do it right, a whole lot of things are actually happening in your mind and body. And and I know we might think that taking frequent breaks is not really helping us and it's actually a waste of time. Yet, this break is really essential to recharging your batteries, and it helps us to operate at really peak levels of performance because the mind and the body are busy resynchronizing during this break, right? So the body is doing its thing during the ebb. For example, free radicals and waste products that have been building up in the tissues during the previous period of like really active brain activity are being cleared out of our cells. And the neurotransmitters required for essential mind body communication are being refreshed and cellular energy is being restored. And so it's really important to the brain and the body to take these breaks because this is where enhancement or refreshment is actually happening. And so just wanted to talk about some tips that I've seen that help maximize during the rest period and some that have actually worked for me. Um, and the first is when you're going to go into that 20-minute period, it may be helpful, especially in the beginning, to set a timer for this ebb session. And you might set the timer for 5 minutes or the full 20 minutes. It's up to you on how you want to use that 20-minute session. And we're just going to talk through some productive ways that use it to help give you that energy that you need for the next peak. And so the first one is don't engage with social media. No email and no texting unless it's urgent. And the second is try not to sleep during this 20-minute ebb period because that's not the point of this break. But if you are actually that tired during one of these ebbs, go ahead and take a power nap so that you can feel energized. But a better use of this time would be just to find a quiet space that you can either sit or lay down. If you're at work, get away from your desk, close your eyes, and focus on your breath and take a few calming breaths, not necessarily a deep breath, um, because every breath has its purpose. Deep breaths actually energize, and unless you're balancing the length of the deep breath with an exhale that the deep breath in with an exhale that is of the same length, then you'd be energizing during this session. And what you really want to do is be balanced. So you want to take a calm, easy in and out for balance. And then let your mind drift. This is really a good time to daydream and to think about what it is that you want to manifest in your life and your work and your day, etc. And and then you can tell those stressful thoughts that pop in that you'll get back to them later. And in the meantime, just drift, dream, close your eyes, breathe, and just be present. Welcome, Witch B.
Wholeness. Welcome, welcome
Wholeness.
back. Welcome, everybody. Wholeness.
Wholeness. And again, wholeness to the room. Today's topic is ebb and flow. Go with the rhythm of your personal energy. And we're talking about biological rhythms. There's the ultradian rhythm, circadian rhythm, and infradian rhythms. Okay, so if you have a job where you're sitting a lot, this this ebb is a good point for you to take a short walk somewhere that you can be free from distractions and allow your mind to drift or daydream, or maybe just do some affirmations that are uplifting for you. And again, if you have some tips that you'd like to share, feel free to raise your hand, come up to the stage, and join us. Wholeness Infinity and greetings, Imani. Thank you for joining. Another way that you can make the most out of your ebb stage is to just right before the end of your session, you can do some alternate nostril breathing. And this is an ancient method that helps you balance the right and the left hemispheres of your brain, and it infuses a good deal of oxygen, fresh oxygen, into your mind and body, and it wakes up your brain and it gives you a lot more energy. And then when you finish that ebb session, make sure if you put your phone on airplane mode, take it back off so that you're back in communication with the world. And the easiest way to plan around your energy pattern starts with when you're actually doing your daily to-do list, and you can mark each item whether it's high energy, medium energy, or low energy, and then fit that into your ultradian, your circadian rhythms. And if you're planning for the year, plan that it through all three aspects of those biological rhythms. Okay, circadian rhythm is the next longest. As I mentioned, it's the 24-hour cycle. All life on Mother Earth is adapted to a 24-hour solar day, and we've evolved to align with the light and dark cycles of the day, and we've internalized that as circadian rhythms. As I mentioned earlier, circa means about, and dia means day, and so we've evolved to sync our biological and our behavioral functions around our environment and the 24-hour day. So some examples of circadian rhythm are rest and activity, melatonin and cortisol production, our heart rate, our blood pressure, our eating, brain activity. And when our circadian rhythm is off, then we'll have difficulty concentrating and staying productive. And over time, we'll start to see that manifest into physical and mental disorders like problem sleeping, obesity, diabetes, depression, and then I mentioned earlier bipolar, which is called a disorder. And yeah, here's another squirrel moment. If you think about bipolar disorder, with the shift in perception, It's a really, really good example of ebb and flow that if you harness it and manage it, it's so powerfully creative and innovative. As we know, people who have a bipolar so-called disorder, and it's only a disorder when it's not managed, have a really high creative process, and then that's their flow. It peaks normal, higher than a normal person, and then their lows are also lower than a normal person. But if they can learn to manage that rhythm, I mean, that is really just so powerful. An easy way to fuel the mind with circadian rhythm is to ingest morning light. And that's why the early bird catches the morning light frequency. If you've ever been up in the morning and you hear the birds chirping when the sun is getting ready to rise, they're there catching that morning light frequency that gives them the energy to enhance their day. And for us, it's the energy to enhance melanin production and enhances, um, just like that, overall energy throughout the day, so that um, we're fueled. And then we want to do that and catch that morning light, even if it's cloudy outside. That power from the sun is still there. And then we can take the next step and make it even more powerful by grounding with the earth. Like, so the sunlight in the morning is really full of ultraviolet A rays or in IR or infrared lights, and that regenerates the melatonin in our body. And from an evolution perspective, it gives us the energy of the day. Um, the melatonin is made first in the morning in our eye and our brain. It comes in through our skin and our eyes, and the AM sunlight ranges about 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and it gives us that abundant energy, and it also helps us to avoid disease. And then the melatonin is actually released when light is absent. So if you're not sleeping well, you may not be producing enough melatonin. So another way that we can enhance our circadian rhythm is to avoid things that detract from it. And one of the things that detracts from it is the brightness of all of the screens that we're using. Right, the phone that's probably in your hand right now, um, hand computers, etc. We definitely want to keep them out of the bedroom altogether, and to increase our exposure in nature, in natural sunlight, with more exercise in our day. And the light that comes from the screens, the visible light spectrum, is playing a major role in regulating our body clock or dysregulating our body clock. The blue light that's coming out of the screen um, helps us to regulate the signals that tell our bodies when it's time to go to sleep and when it's time to wake up. And, and so, therefore, if we're scrolling through these screens and laying in bed trying to get to sleep, we're actually doing the opposite, because that blue light is what helps us keeps us awake. And and it's been shown that too much exposure to blue light is telling your body that it needs to stay alert and keeping you in beta mode or in active mode versus rest and restore, which is why too much screen time is not good for mental health. And a really good and probably relatively simple way to enhance our circadian rhythm is to be on a consistent schedule. right? I think we undervalue routine and ritual. I know I do, because I never like to do the same thing in the same way all the time. But doing that actually sets us up with time ranges where when we're doing certain things, so that we're not disrupting our routine. So let's say, for example, if you get up at 7 every day and you eat breakfast between 9 and 10, you eat lunch between noon and 1, and then maybe have dinner between 6 and 7 every day, then the odds are that you're going to have a balanced circadian rhythm, which helps you get to sleep at a consistent time every night. Because routine and rituals are actually balancing rhythms. And people stay up every night, who are playing video games or watching TV, or even if it's somebody who sleeps at really random times during the day, are more likely to experience a lot of brain fog. And yeah, this could
I,
come from. Mhm.
I'm like listening to it. I'm like, oh my god, I'm raising my hand at everything because I don't sleep regularly, and I do have the phone and the computer on the bed with me. I literally work off my bed a lot. So one of the things that I've done is actually, and even did have been practicing, is literally complete shutdown of the computer, and then shutting down my phone. I can't do it every night, um, but I do sometimes, like, do the shutdown where it, like, turn off. Um, but it depends. Like, I literally can't do that every night. But I will sometimes do it where I'll shut it off and I'll shut down the computer. And but before, what I actually used to really do, also shut off the Wi-Fi. But lately, because of where I live and some changes to my schedule, and getting into that bad habit of sleeping late, because I don't shut it down. But before, yeah, I used to literally shut down the whole Wi-Fi, shut down all of the computers and everything. Yeah. So, but I am so guilty of what you're talking about. So, thank you.
You know, I think often we're all guilty, because if we don't know what it's doing to us, then of course it's a habit that you pick up. And then once you know better, you do better. At least sometimes, right? Not necessarily all the time, but sometimes.
Sometimes, like I said, I knew, and there was a time I did do good, and then lately, no, not so much. Lately, really, I've just been, I literally have my laptop, like, taped to my hip, walking around with it because I work so much off my laptop and my phone. So that's why I've literally had to dedicate time to shut it off. And um like, literally, because, like, when they give you, like, the amount of hours you spend on screen time,
Hmm.
mine is like 20 hours. And I'm like,
20 out of 24 hours in the day.
yes, I know.
Wow. Yeah, that is crazy.
That's crazy because I'm like,
Hmm.
no way, I don't spend. But you know what happened? A lot of times, like I say, I have my phone down and I'm not on it, but it's
Right.
still, the app's running in the background, and that's what it is. So it's not a really good, accurate portrait, but it does look so bad.
Yeah, but think about too, so you don't feel totally bad about that. Think about the next rhythm, the infradian rhythm, which is beyond the days. Like it's weekly, monthly, annually, and oftentimes it's tied to the lunar cycle. Um, we got to look at that bigger picture as well, and that's why we're looking at all three of these rhythms together. Like, maybe overall you're going through a high energy cycle, a highly productive cycle, and therefore you are spending more time online, or just more hours awake, and not getting the amount of sleep that is really overall beneficial for melatonin production and production of other beneficial hormones in the body, right? So for that time period, and that means that you're in a flow and you're going with the flow. versus, take in your ebbs become shorter than what they would normally be. And so that's all for your consideration when you're looking at going with the rhythm of your personal energy.
I really love that because that's another way of rethinking it. Because I know overall, I mean, I'm pretty, in flow with nature in terms of like how my all of my different bigger cycles and smaller cycles. Sometimes the smaller cycles will go out of whack. So you're right. Even
Mhm.
though like this past year, I'm going through perimenopause, so it's like a whole thing going on here. But really paying close attention, I think it's important because I am because I think usually like people make menopause like an enemy, like something that's negative that's happening, when in reality you are literally coming into your spirit self. So
Mhm.
as well, so that is a huge spiritual awakening when you're going through menopause, and especially for women, by the way. And so because men go through what they call andropause, and that is not talked a lot about, but in either case the key here is to basically uh, at least learn what you're teaching today. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and menopause is a infradian rhythm. It's one of those cycles that it goes beyond the day, and it's based on the lunar cycle. And really, most of the time when you hear about infradian rhythm, they're talking about a woman's menstrual cycle, but it also impacts the immune system, the reproductive system, metabolic systems, and yeah, those are all governed by the infradian rhythm. And we see that output in our energy level, our immune system strength, how high or low our moods are, and just our mental capacity, just the focus and the sharpness that we're able to express. When we have irregularities or imbalance in our infradian rhythm, it's going to impact our hormone production. And so, of course, it's going to impact overall well being. And, and what it does is, well, one way it shows up is that we have estrogen and progesterone levels that sharply dip. And when we have those sharp dips, it's definitely going to impact our mental well-being. And so that's why it's really important to be in tune with your body and these rhythms. Um, some other things that come out of infradian rhythms that's off balance are insomnia, lack of alertness. There's a whole list. Feeling sleepy at odd hours, indigestion rather, bloating, feeling tired really easily, lack of motivation, binge eating, to make up for the low energy that we have. We start eating more. um, Mood swings, sudden bouts of depression and anxiety, those are all symptoms for an infradian rhythm that's not on track. And it's funny because this is all of the symptoms that we go through as women when a period starts, and the the estrogen and progesterone levels plummet. Um, and it correlates to us having low levels of serotonin in our body. So, one way to help us to get balance is to enhance the serotonin in our body. And I guess that's why when people talk about infradian rhythm, the woman's menstrual cycle is brought up so frequently because all of those symptoms of an off balance infradian system come up um, during the menstrual cycle, and more so when that cycle is off balance. Another example of an infradian rhythm, as I mentioned earlier, is winter seasonal affective disorder. And that's on a yearly cycle, and it's impacted by the melatonin that's produced in our body. And it's because there's a lack of light during the winter. And so when we have less light, that means that we're producing more melatonin in our body because we have a longer period of darkness. And that's been linked to depression. And so, in order to help us maintain our infradian rhythm, again, back to routine. If you go to bed and get up at the same time every day, then and you get enough sleep at night, you're able to maintain like a solid baseline or rhythm which your body gets used to, that helps you to tune into your overall ebb and flow and keep it stable. And this actually plays out into how you plan your diet, do physical exercises, and overall, as I said, when you take all three of these rhythms together, the ultradian rhythm, circadian rhythm, infradian rhythm, then it helps you to plan overall for your life and being in balance. And when we're acknowledging these three rhythms, it helps us to really kind of persevere when we're going through different phases and cycles, because we know after an ebb is going to be a flow, and after a flow we need to ebb so that we can rest and restore. And then we can avoid taking on um, tasks that are going to drain our energy, or doing tasks in an ebb when we should be resting, and ensure that we are doing those energy intensive tasks in the flow, whether that be the flow of a day, the flow of a lunar cycle, the flow of a year, or our overall flow. When we actually watch ourselves through self-observation, which is the phase of the book that this well-being concept comes in at, go with the rhythm of your personal energy, and we're observing ourselves, we get to know and learn what those best times are for us, so that we are ebbing and flowing in align with our best selves and are able to experience a better quality of life. So I'm going to read from day 28 in the book, Balance is a Juggling Act. It says, everything in the universe has its own ebb and flow. Do not try to do your life's equivalent of rocket science when you are in an ebb or rest stage. Wait for the flow. When you feel out of tune, it's a sign that you are out of sync with your natural rhythm. Pause for a reset. Just as spring follows winter, a season of flow will follow an ebb season. You will be re energized. Similarly, when you are in a flow phase, take advantage of its abundant energy. It is there to be channeled and used creatively. Do not waste it through inaction or procrastination. Honor your body temple and the rhythm of nature of which you are a part. In fact, spend more time in natural environments to facilitate balance. Today, think about the time of day or time of year when you feel that you are at your peak. Plan to do your creative and energy intensive tasks at that time.
Let me jump in for a second, Raisa. So everyone in the room, the link to the book is on top. So if you are interested in getting the whole book, and you can do these chapters that we've been going through at your leisure, and then taking your time you would do in the book. So definitely click on it. It is available on Amazon. Our lovely Raisa has agreed to do this book that she wrote, and through her experiences. here for me on Abundance Portal. So giving so much thanks. We've been going through them over the weeks, and so she is a mental health advocate and transformation coach. Also available. So if you're looking to get a session with her, definitely follow her and send her a direct message, or just sometimes we some of these books we want them in our library. Like I have a big library that I have collected over the years of books that I actually constantly use. Because there's library where you have books that's there, and then I have my reference library where I am constantly making reference to these books. If you've been in my rooms, you'll see a lot of times, like as I'm talking, I'm always saying I'm a reader, and that's one of the things that I'm gonna do is actually put in all of the list of books that I use, because I do at times have 3 or 4 books, and people usually ask me, "Hey, what are you reading from? Or where are you getting this information from? What's your reference?" And I can't usually quote one place. I mean, because I use so many different, but I love, and Raisa's book is a great reference. So with that being said, thank you so much, Raisa. You can continue, but I wanted to add that in, that the link is on top and that they can use it.
Oh,
Hold on.
thanks. So, actually, that is the gist of today's share. Um, so, I said we're at day 28 of the 40 concepts in self observation. We've got 2 more concepts in self observation, and then we go on to the actual practice, which is conscious living. And so, if you'd like to follow through this with us, please do so. There are 27 days of concepts that are in the archives. And the book itself, Balance is a Juggling Act: How to Start a Revolution, Mental Revolution for a Change of Thought, is in journal mode. It's a summary of the concept. And so, what I'm doing is taking what we have been doing in this 28 days thus far of, of conceptual work, and putting that into a course, which will be available the first of the year. And also writing a full book around these 40 concepts. Because as I've been going through this, I've learned a lot, and there's just so much information that is in addition to the short summaries. I started with the short summaries because in a time when people are going through a lot, as a lot of people are in this era of still pandemic and other things that are popping up, war, just changes and shifts in mindset, and so many people going through their personal transformation. It is a quick, easy read, um, and a tool that you can use on a daily basis to help guide you through your day and maintain that balance on whatever personal tightrope that you may be going through in your life at this time. And so, thus, the book journal coming soon will be a full book that digs deeper into all of these concepts, as we have been doing in these clubhouse sessions. And so, I thank you all for joining. Your input will help make that book go better. And so, if you have any thoughts or comments, or even tools that you personally use, please share.
I'm here. I was finishing a text. Sorry. Sorry. N- you asking me to share my tools, right? If I was in the middle of finishing.
Yeah, yeah, you or anyone in the room.
Yeah. For me, like there's besides, like the meditation, the daily meditations. I think are so key. By the way, in terms of like maintaining a lot of this stuff, like if you can add a meditative practice within your day, that will really help energize you in so many ways that it's basically a retrainment of the mind. We've talked a lot about this in these rooms. So really my biggest and strongest tool has been my meditative practices, and Raisa knows, especially the microcosmic orbit, which we inside of our group we do daily as a daily practice, where And of course, in Abundance Portals, Monday to Friday, we do have a meditation. Every week I offer one different type of meditation. I try not to go too high into the level of practices, but what I say is a practice, like a meditation practice that is actually helping you grow within your spirituality. And a lot of these, like they help you keep that ebb and flow. They help you keep that rhythm. And as far as like some of this rest that needed, it really energizes you. So like let's say if you're not getting enough sleep, half an hour of meditation will equal like 4 hours of sleep, and this is like tested. So understand, like once you can get into that space of the theta brain wave, and you can keep it long enough for like a half an hour, then you will get that energy and that rest that's you may not be getting if you're not sleeping. So yeah, so this is like one of my biggest tools that I've used for years, and again I've developed it over the years, and I've gotten better and better. And yes, there was a time when I would meditate, and then it would be like voices and thinking, and thinking about all sorts of different things. But now I can pretty much within 5 minutes get into that space really quick. And once you start doing it, it's wonderful, and it's actually sometimes life saving as well. So yeah, wholeness.
Yeah, wholeness. Yeah, I always say if you only have one tool that you can use, it's meditation. Whether it's quiet meditation or moving meditation, do what works for you. We all have phases again, ebb and flows in what meditation looks like. And sometimes we can't or are not able to just sit still, and moving meditation works better. Or something more passive like listening to soothing frequencies or energizing frequencies, whatever we need, depending on whether or not we're in an ebb or a flow. So we've got binaural beats, right? We've got Which Bee Station. Which Bee, I have to confess, I haven't been on Clubhouse much. So are you still doing your um, sound healing?
Yes, yes. So this is Abundance Portals. Abundance Portals, the club. The Avatar does a room or nightly. I've actually cut down the weekends only because I actually do need a break. So I try not to do it like on Fridays and Saturdays, because I think on Fridays and Saturdays people go out anyway. However, Monday to Friday, and then again some Sundays where we do turn on the sound healing. And if you've been in my rooms, understand that we are looking at the science of sound healing. We are specifically doing delta or theta waves. These past few weeks, we've been doing the chakras, specifically the heart chakra, basically for like a week. And then I moved on to the solar and the root chakra. And then we'll do all of the chakras, because at first I was just doing them over and over, like all seven, doing all seven in terms of the solfeggio frequencies, and then I let's concentrate on one at a time so that people can actually feel. And I really do get a great feedback from this room. If you just want the healing, and you may not want to hear talking, just so the frequency and the vibration will help heal and help balance you out. The binaural beats is another one that I use in these rooms. I haven't used it in the past couple of weeks, but usually I do. Every 3 days I do a binaural beat. The binaural beats is about, like, let's say, to get into that delta and theta wave, the meditative state, especially if you are having the problem sleeping, then yes, this would be like one of the best meditation, sound healing meditations to do, because your brain pattern will start following the sound, and then it will actually get into the lower delta state or theta state all by itself. And so which gives you all sorts of experiences as you are going deeper and deeper into this state. This is part of what a lot of the meditative monks that they do. They use this kind of technology to get into the transcendent states. So yes, so that's what those rooms are all about. And they're 11, about 11ish, 11:15, 10, 11:15 p.m. Eastern time, by the way, because I'm in the East Coast. Um, that we do these rooms again. Solfeggio tones with the chakra, with the chakra balancing, or just the solfeggio tone frequencies themselves, or the delta, or the theta. I'm saying delta, the binaural beats using either delta waves or theta waves. These are the two that if I go into higher, like, waves, then it will probably keep people awake. You know what I mean? So we
Yeah.
want we want we want the theta or the
Yeah.
delta. So, and I say this, by the way, I do give information out when I'm doing this in the room, so that you'll know, okay, this is what I'll be playing for the night. This is what it's good for, and this is why. And nightly, over sometimes over up to 100 people, and over sometimes pass by for however long, and it's a great way of welcoming them to the club. And so, to me, the education is more important, even if you pass by the room once, as long as you understand that, yeah, that, there's a lot of healing that can be done. The other thing is that I am actually also doing Ho'oponopono session. So we'll start Ho'oponopono on 9/11. September 11th is going to be the start of our Ho'oponopono, and start at noon, and it's going to go straight. So I'm not doing the other rooms. We're just going to be doing Ho'oponopono until for the rest of September. And so please do, I guess if you click on me, please do register for the Ho'oponopono. I mean, our RSVP for Ho'oponopono sessions, because the people who RSVP, like, I'll be sending them like a link for, because I'm preparing like an ebook for that, that's going to come along with it. Because usually when I do the sessions, I get a lot of questions, and so in the ebook we're going to answer all the questions, as well as how to do the Ho'oponopono, the process that I am actually doing, so that you can do it for yourself and you can do it along. And then, yes, I'm going to do some private sessions, in terms of going into some group private sessions, instead of going into Zoom and going into the meditative state. Like, if you've been in my rooms, you understand, like, when I help people go into meditation, because of the sound of my voice, because of me being a womb healer, it do tends to take them pretty deep, and I'm not trying to bring everybody deep deep into meditation in an open space, on Clubhouse. So I usually do it through Zoom. So, because one of the things that I did find is that, as I was doing Ho'oponopono last time, the mothers were there, so the mothers were trying to pull us in,
Right.
and so right,
Right.
and so in terms, the mother's not gonna be like, oh, this is Clubhouse. They're gonna be like, hey, my children are here. Let's pull them in and
Mhm.
heal. And so, with that being said, I'm gonna allow the space for that, and so, to come in, and then I'll feel more comfortable into saying, "Hey, let's get into deep meditation and do some real healing here." So hopefully, you guys. Again, if you've never heard of Ho'oponopono, this is the prayer of reconciliation and forgiveness. And I really understand. And I take you through the process. It's not just, oh, here, I forgive you. You're gonna, when we finish the 21 days, you're gonna understand why you forgive, and then how it is that you're gonna get to a higher state, and even reach your soul, if you allow it to, to get in contact with that space, within that space. For me, the Ho'oponopono is not here. It's not a simple prayer as well. I know it's for simple phrases. However, understand this is a deep technology. This is a gift, that many different cultures do practice, and so I'm already like, I know whenever I do this kind of work, I get criticism for it. So I don't really care, because if people really came into my room and did the healing with me, they'd understand, like, why I'm like the perfect person to do this healing. So, with that being said, thank you so much, Raisa, for letting me promote my
No,
Ho'oponopono.
awesome. I'm looking forward to this. And just for everybody, and Ross, forgiveness is for you. And also, just to circle back to a point you made earlier with binaural beats, we can train ourselves into a higher vibration, and we can use those passive tools like binaural beats to help get us there, help synchronize us. We do it all the time with lower frequencies and lower energy and emotion. even very well, I'll say just subconsciously. And so we can be conscious about entraining ourselves to vibrations that lift us and support our ebb and flow. So with that, I will close out. Unless there are any questions or comments, please follow Abundance Channel. Um, check out others in the room, follow them, follow me, and I'll look forward to speaking with you all next Tuesday at 3 p.m. on Abundance Portals. Wholeness, this room will end in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Wholeness.